What do you do when your company, once known for innovation, instead becomes synonymous with poor build quality and overpricing subpar materials? Well, if you're Benchmade, you slap a water tag on it and double down. And that's how we get to the Benchmade Mini Adira. A knife with so much WTF going on, I don't even know where to begin. So you know what? Roll the intro. What it do, Kripple Krew? EDC with DVD, disabled but deadly. And yes, we are taking a look at the Benchmade Water series today. The Mini Adira, to be exact. But before we get into that, do me a favor, stab that like button. Make sure that you're subscribed and that you've bashed that bell for notifications so that you don't miss anything like the frequent live streams and giveaways. And also, if you like what I do here, it only costs a couple of bucks a month to become a member of Kripple Krew Inc., where you get access to members-only content and giveaways. That couple of bucks a month really helps the channel, but it's totally up to you. Let's talk about the Benchmade Mini Adira. And it's knives like this that make me very, very grateful for the Lefty Pass Around group, because this is a knife I would never purchase. I would never spend my money on, but I am actually glad to handle it so that I can tell you how much know it has going on. So the Mini Adira, as the name implies, is the smaller version of the Adira, the first knife in the Benchmade Water series. And the Mini Adira comes in at 7.46 inches overall length, so a nice medium to full, almost full size EDC, with a 3.21 inch MagnaCut Drop Point blade with a beautiful Stonewash finish, but we're going to get back to that MagnaCut in a bit. We have a handle length of 4.25 inches, a handle material of Grivory. We have an aluminum back spacer, a steel fold-over pocket clip, and a blade stock thickness of 110 thousandths. Our pocket clip is tip up as the gods intended and deep carry, and it is reversible, and it looks like it's rocking the standard Benchmade pattern, so any of the replacement clips you're used to putting on all of your Benchmades should work. We do not have liners except for right up here around the lock. And materials is one of the areas where I think this knife completely falls short. So the price of this version, with the depth blue or whatever they call this blue Grivory, is $230, or there's a gray version that's $240. At over $200, I shouldn't be getting Grivory handles at this point. I know that their excuse is that it's corrosion resistant. This is supposed to be your water knife. However, there's a lot of materials that are corrosion resistant that are tougher than this and that feel so much better than this crappy Grivory. Benchmade's Grivory feels like it's the worst type of plastic. It has a cheap dollar store toy feel to it. And this is no different. Now, I will say that the Grivory on this is at least finished better than what I received on my bug out, where it had all the little plastic tails sticking out from the extrusion process. But there are injection molded materials that feel great in hand and don't feel like cheap Chinese plastic. Even G10 is corrosion resistant and feels better than that Grivory in hand. This feels like dollar store plastic. And it immediately makes it feel like I'm handling a cheap knife. I don't mean inexpensive, I mean cheap. It feels like a bad clone. Here's a size comparison with the Flightanium Arcade Light. And the Flightanium Arcade Light is just slightly longer at 7.7 inches. Here's another American-made knife. This Flightanium is not American-made. The Benchmade is. We'll give Spyderco PM2 a warning rendition comparison. The PM2 is going to be quite a bit longer. USA-made TRM Neutron 2 is going to be slightly shorter than the Mini Adira. That should give you an idea of the length of the Adira, the size of it. Our handle width on it, this is one thing that I do like, is our handle width overall is 640 thousandths. So it is a nice wide presence in the hand. And if these scales didn't feel like such cheap plastic, is the only way to describe it, it could actually be comfortable. Instead, these edges down here are very sharp. It is not comfortable to squeeze at all in my hand. And that pocket clip is giving me a hot spot. So, this knife is actuated with the dual-sided thumb studs or our crossbar, our axis lock. And it is running on washers, which I really like crossbar lock knives on washers. So the axis lock is how we close the knife. Of course, like I said, you can open it with the lock. But this is by far the worst crossbar lock action I have ever felt. And I've owned a bug out. Now, unlike my bug out, at least the Mini Adira arrived centered. But this has the crappiest lock bar action I have personally felt. It is so it's easier to fail the knife than to succeed in opening it. And that's a bad thing. I know that it's on washers, but I have felt brand new washer knives with crossbars many times. I have handled a lot of washer knives. And this is not just because of the washers. This is poor action. Also, like most Benchmade Grivory, it's not the strongest. I can get it to flex with one hand. I don't want to really give it much strength because with two hands, I'm not even squeezing yet and it's flexing that much. I don't want to damage a knife that's not mine. You know, the injection molded material that they used on the Flightanium Light is much, much stronger, besides feeling better in hand. Let's talk some more about poor material choices. So, they went with a T10 pivot. Okay, I like that. I don't have any problem with that. T10 is a good size. You know, my Spyderco pivots are T10s. And T10 is much less likely to strip than, like, say, a T6. But they went T10 pivot and then T6 body screws all around this knife. All around this knife. There is 11 T6 screws on this knife right now. I take that back. Our thumb studs are T6 also. So everything but the pivot on this thing is a T6. And if you've ever had T6s strip on you, you know why reviewers harp on this. A T6 is much more likely to strip if these are too tight. whether you strip the screw or you strip the bit. A T8 is far less likely to strip, and they could have put T8s all around. And even if they did T6s on the stupid pocket screw, I could handle it. But T6 body screws all around on a $230 plastic knife? Come on now, guys. Also, aluminum for the backspacer. Yes, corrosion resistant. I get it. Lightweight. I get it. Cheap. At $230 when you're already saving material by giving me injection molded Grivory Scales? Come on now. Pocket clip. It's just their cheap Benchmade pocket steel pocket clip. If you're saving all this money on these materials, you can put it into something. But let's talk about the MagnaCut blade that they're building this water series around. MagnaCut is some of the, one of the newest, hottest steels on the market. Everybody loves MagnaCut because it's a very well-balanced steel. Whereas there are the three main capabilities that are qualities that we look for in a steel, which is corrosion resistance, toughness, and edge retention. Most steels can excel in one or two areas, but you're always sacrificing in one of the others to achieve that. Whereas MagnaCut steel gets good marks all around. It's one of the best out there for corrosion resistance, so I understand putting it in the water series knife. There's a reason that Spyderco is using MagnaCut for all of their salt series knives now. I get that. It's a very tough steel. So this is a knife that you'd be able to do with, when you think about having a crossbar lock and MagnaCut, you're getting a knife that you can do more medium, heavy-duty knife tasks with. And then edge retention. MagnaCut holds its edge very well. Usually. The target range for a folder for HRC on the HRC schedule, on the HRC scale for MagnaCut, the optimal range is 62 to 64, with you getting the absolute best edge retention at 63 or 64 HRC. That's where you're going to be able to get the toughness, the corrosion resistance, and the best edge retention. They're running this at 60 to 62. That would be low even if this were a fixed blade and you were running it a little low for extra durability. But 60 to 62 for MagnaCut on a folder is just ridiculous. Companies did that a couple of years ago when MagnaCut first came out, and everybody got smart. As an example, the Hogue Deka, when it first came out, was in that same 60 to 62 HRC, with a lot of them coming in at 60, 61. And people rightly threw a fit about it. And Hogue now runs this above 62 HRC. And that's where mine, I've got one of the newer runs rocking above 62 HRC. The Mini Adira is the newest knife in the water line, and the water series just released last year. So the data was out. Everybody knew what optimal HRC should be for MagnaCut, and Benchmade still decided to run this at 60 to 62 HRC. Is it cheaper to run big batches of knives at that lower HRC? Sure. But you're not going to get the edge retention you expect out of MagnaCut at 60 to 62 HRC. And then for our crossbar lock hardware and our Omega springs, they went with a simple stainless steel. Oftentimes on these water, salt, the corrosion resistant knives that are coming out, We're seeing them use like LC200N as the steel on it to really ensure that your knife is going to be corrosion resistant. And they don't do that with the hardware on this knife. Now, if you take care of your knife, you shouldn't have a problem with it. But if you're going to call a knife water and say that its main reason for existence is for use on the water, and you're already saving money by going cheap on all of these materials, they could have upgraded that to LC200N and made sure that it wouldn't corrode. Maybe all that savings went into the lanyard. Maybe that's where it is. But overall, would I like the size of this knife? Yes. Would I like the shape? So the profile, it's a nice profile. Ergonomics, if it wasn't so uncomfortable underneath down here when I was gripping it, ergos would be pretty good back here behind the pivot where I would be locking in on all of this jimping. Or I can choke up here for some more control in a cut and have a nice wide grip back here that would be comfortable if that plastic wasn't biting into my skin. Turning it around to cut straps, same thing. I have enough knife, but it's uncomfortable. Throw it in a beef jerky defender grip or Avenger grip. Now it's biting into my fingers. Flip it around into a beef jerky Avenger. And this is actually the first grip where this knife is almost comfortable. I still feel the plastic biting into my thumb, but this is the most comfortable grip for this knife. Regular use of this knife is going to be almost painful, if not painful after a while. I couldn't use this for very long myself. And I can't find a single thing on this knife to recommend. I don't like to make negative content, folks. You guys know that by now. I'm a positive fella, and I love knives. I love knives, and I want to support American-made knives. I do. But you got to give me something to support here, Benchmade. Once again, the butterfly tax is real. You are overpaying for subpar materials, subpar fit and finish, or heat treatment, and you're buying the Benchmade name. Even the MagnaCut is a lie at 60 to 62. Just why, Benchmade? Why? This could have been an awesome knife. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of the Benchmade Mini Adira, and would you buy one? Look forward to the next time. Until then, stay safe, stay frosty. Most importantly, folks, stay deadly.